The hospital smelled like bleach and fear. I sat in the waiting room, flipping through a magazine I wasn't reading. My mother, Nora, had fainted at work. Nothing serious, they said. Just stress. I was there because that's what daughters do. A nurse walked past carrying a clipboard. She glanced at me, then at her papers, then back at me. Isabella Martinez? She asked. I nodded. We need to update your biological father's medical history for the records. Do you have his information? I blinked. My dad's name is Richard Martinez. You should have everything already. She looked confused. No, I mean your biological father. It says here. Another nurse grabbed her arm and pulled her away, whispering urgently. My chest tightened. My hands went cold. What did she just say? If you're watching this video, please like, subscribe to the channel, and tell me in the comments where you're watching my story from. I found my mother in her hospital room, sitting up, looking perfectly fine. What did that nurse mean about my biological father? I asked. Her face changed. Not surprise. Not confusion. Anger. Pure, cold anger. You were never supposed to find out like this, she hissed. The room tilted. My legs felt weak. Find out what? She didn't answer. She just stared at me with those hard eyes. Richard walked in then, holding coffee. He saw my face, then Nora's, and stopped. What's going on? He asked quietly. Tell her, I said to my mother. Tell me what? My voice was shaking now. Richard set down the coffee. His hands were trembling too. The silence stretched like a wire about to snap. Then Nora said the words that broke my world. Richard isn't your biological father. I couldn't breathe. The walls were closing in. What are you talking about? My voice sounded strange. Far away. Nora's face was tight. It's complicated. Complicated. I laughed, but it came out wrong. You lied to me for 23 years and it's complicated? Richard still wouldn't look at me. That hurt worse than anything. Richard, say something, I begged. He finally met my eyes. I think you should sit down, Isabella. Something in his voice made my knees buckle. I grabbed the chair. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This wasn't a mistake. This was real. Richard had known. They both had known. My entire life was a lie. Every birthday, every father-daughter dance, every time I looked in the mirror searching for his features. All of it. A lie. How long have you known? I asked Richard. He looked at Nora first, like he was asking permission to speak. That told me everything. Since before you were born, he said quietly. The room spun. You've known my entire life? I agreed to raise you as my own, he said. To give you a stable home. To keep my secret, Nora corrected sharply. I turned to her. Why? Why would you do this? She crossed her arms. You had a good childhood. You had everything you needed. What difference does it make? What difference? I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I have a father out there somewhere. A real father. And you just decided I didn't deserve to know? It was none of your business, she said coldly. That's when I realized something terrible. She wasn't sorry. She wasn't even pretending to be sorry. I left the hospital in a daze. I drove home on autopilot, my hands gripping the wheel too tight. Inside my apartment, I started searching. I tore through old boxes I brought from my childhood home. Photo albums, documents, anything. There had to be something. Some clue. Some trace of the truth. In a box of my mother's old things, I found an envelope tucked inside a book. Inside were old letters. Love letters. They were addressed to my Nora, but signed only with D. I kept digging. At the bottom of the envelope was a torn piece of paper. A name was scribbled in my mother's handwriting, then violently crossed out. But I could still read it underneath the black ink. David. Just David. No last name. Nothing else. But it was something. It was more than I'd had an hour ago. I hired a private investigator. It took 3 weeks and most of my savings, but she found him. David Chen. Living 2 towns over. Working as a carpenter. Never married. No other children. I sat in my car outside his workshop for 20 minutes before I found the courage to walk in. He was sanding a table, his back to me. "Can I help you?" he asked without turning around. "My name is Isabella Martinez," I said. He went completely still. The sanding block slipped from his hand and clattered on the floor. When he turned around, his face was white. "Isabella," he whispered. Not like a question, like a prayer. "You knew about me," I said. "It wasn't a question." He nodded slowly, his eyes filling with tears. "Your mother told me you weren't mine. She threatened to destroy me if I ever tried to contact you." We sat in his small office for 3 hours. David told me everything. He and Nora had dated before Richard. She got pregnant. But Richard had money, stability, a future. David was just a carpenter's apprentice. Nora chose Richard and told David the baby wasn't his. She even showed him a fake paternity test. "I believed her," David said, his voice breaking. "I thought I had no right." But years later, a mutual friend told him the truth. "I tried to fight her. I went to a lawyer. But Nora had married Richard by then. They threatened me with harassment charges, said I was delusional." We did a DNA test the next day. When the results came back, I sat in my car and cried. Not because I was surprised, because now it was real. The father who raised me wasn't my father. And the father who was mine had been stolen from me. I didn't scream. I didn't confront. I went quiet. I thought about everything carefully. Nora had built her life on lies, and I had 2 choices. I could explode and give her ammunition to call me unstable. Or I could be smart, strategic, patient. I called Nora and asked if I could come home for a while. "I've been thinking about everything," I told her. "I understand why you did what you did. I just need some time to process." She actually sounded pleased. "I knew you'd come around. You were always such a sensible girl." I moved back into my childhood bedroom that weekend. Nora hugged me at the door, smiling like she'd won. Richard looked uncertain, but he didn't say anything. That night, I lay in my old bed and started planning. I would document everything. Every lie, every contradiction, every manipulation. And then I would take it all apart. I started asking innocent questions at dinner. "Mom, how did you and Richard meet?" She told her practiced story. The charity event, the instant connection. "And what year was that?" I asked casually. 1997, she said smoothly. I nodded and made a mental note. Later, I asked Richard the same question separately. 98, I think, he said. Maybe 97? I smiled. That's what Mom said too. But I'd already found their wedding announcement online. It was dated January 1998. I was born in May 1998. The math didn't work if they'd met in 1997. Another time, I asked about my baby pictures. Nora said they were all in albums. But I'd already been through every album. There were no pictures of her pregnant. None of me before 3 months old. When I pointed this out, she got defensive. We didn't take many pictures back then. Film was expensive. But there were hundreds of pictures from that year. Just none of her pregnant or me as a newborn. Richard started noticing the inconsistencies too. One morning, he pulled me aside. "Can we talk?" His voice was low, urgent. We went to a coffee shop far from the house. He looked tired, older than I remembered. "Something's been bothering me," he said. "The timeline. When Nora and I got married, she said she was 2 months pregnant. But you were born only 3 months later." I pulled out the folder I'd been building. Birth records. Hospital documents. The original paternity test Nora had shown David. The fake one. "This is what she showed my biological father," I said. "It's forged. Look at the dates. Look at the lab name. That lab didn't exist in 1997. Richard's hands shook as he read through everything. "She lied to me," he whispered. "About all of it." "She lied to everyone," I said gently. "You were a victim too." That night, I heard them fighting. I was supposed to be asleep, but their voices carried through the walls. "You told me the baby was mine," Richard said. His voice was shaking with rage. "You swore on everything." "She was going to be yours," Nora shot back. "What difference does it make?" "What difference? I raised another man's child thinking she was mine. And you got to look like a hero, the perfect family man. Don't pretend you didn't benefit." "I loved her," Richard said quietly. "I still do. But you took that choice away from me. From both of us." "I gave you a family," Nora hissed. "I gave you a daughter. I gave you a life. You were nobody before me. Just a boring accountant with no personality." "You used me," Richard said. "You used all of us." I listened from the hallway, hearing him finally see her clearly for the first time. "I'm done protecting you," he told her. "I'm done with the lies." The next day, I went through my mother's office while she was at work. I found files she thought were hidden. Bank statements. Legal documents. Her will. My name wasn't on it. Instead, everything was going to her sister. The house, the savings, the investments Richard had built over 23 years of marriage. But that wasn't the worst part. I found documents showing she'd taken out credit cards in Richard's name, run up debt he didn't know about, forged his signature on loan papers. She had been systematically stealing from him for years. I photographed everything. Every page, every signature, every fraudulent transaction. Then I called Richard's office. "I need to show you something," I said. "And you might want to bring a lawyer." When I spread the documents across the table, Richard's lawyer went pale. "This is fraud," he said. "Multiple counts. Identity theft. Forgery." Richard just stared at the papers, his face blank. "I never signed any of these." "I know," I said quietly. "I thought I had time to plan everything carefully. I was wrong." Nora must have sensed something was shifting because she moved first. She called a family dinner with Richard's parents, her sister, and our closest relatives. 15 people crammed into the dining room. "I need to talk to everyone about Isabella," she began, her voice trembling with fake emotion. "She's been having some kind of mental breakdown. She's making up stories, accusing me of terrible things." I sat there, calm and silent, while she performed. "She claims Richard isn't her father. She's found some random man and convinced herself he's related to her. I think she needs professional help." Richard's mother reached over and squeezed my hand. "Oh, Isabella, sweetie." But I saw the doubt in her eyes. Nora was good. She'd always been good. "I'm worried about her," Nora continued, dabbing at dry eyes. "I'm worried she might hurt herself. Or someone else." Just like that, I became the problem. The next week was brutal. Family members who'd known me my whole life suddenly looked at me differently. Aunts who used to bake me birthday cakes stopped returning my calls. Richard's brother told him maybe he should get Isabella some help. Even my best friend from college sent a gentle text asking if I was okay. Nora had played it perfectly. She was the concerned mother. I was the unstable daughter having a breakdown. I sat in my childhood room feeling more alone than I'd ever felt. Maybe I was crazy. Maybe I'd misunderstood everything. Maybe the DNA test was wrong. For the first time, I questioned myself. I pulled out my phone and stared at David's number. Part of me wanted to delete it, pretend none of this had happened. Go back to the comfortable lie. Then my phone buzzed. A text from David. Don't give up. The truth matters. I'm here. David did something I never expected. He went public. He posted on social media. Not angry, not dramatic. Just facts. 23 years ago, Nora Martinez told me I wasn't the father of her child. She showed me a fake paternity test. She threatened me legally when I tried to be involved. This week, I met my daughter for the first time. Her name is Isabella. We did a real DNA test. I am her father. He attached screenshots. The threats Nora had sent years ago. Voice messages where she called him crazy, said she'd ruin him. Copies of the fake paternity test next to our real one. Receipts for the lawyer she'd hired to scare him away. It went viral in our small town in 6 hours. Nora's phone started ringing. Her sister saw it. Richard's parents saw it. Everyone saw it. I watched from my bedroom window as Nora came home early from work. She was crying, but this time they were real tears. For the first time, she had lost control of the narrative. The family gathering happened fast. Richard's parents insisted. Everyone needed to hear the truth together. 20 people in Richard's parents' living room. Nora tried to control it from the start. David is a liar. He's obsessed. This is harassment. Then explain this, I said quietly. I connected my laptop to the TV and played the recordings I'd made. Nora's voice filled the room. Her real voice, without the sweet mask. That baby was a mistake. I chose Richard because David was worthless. I don't owe Isabella anything. She had a good life. That's all that matters. Richard is too weak to leave me. He never will. The room was silent except for Nora's recorded voice. Isabella owes me everything. I gave her life. If she can't appreciate that, she can leave. When it ended, no one spoke. Nora stood up, shaking. You recorded me? You lied to me, I said calmly. For 23 years. Richard stood up then. I'm leaving you, Nora. Today. Now. Richard filed for divorce on Monday. By Wednesday, his lawyer had filed reports with the police about the financial fraud. Nora's bank accounts were frozen pending investigation. Her credit cards were canceled. The house they'd bought together was put in Richard's name only since he'd paid for everything. Nora's fancy car? Leased in Richard's name. Also gone. Within a week, the woman who'd controlled everything controlled nothing. Her job put her on administrative leave when they found out about the investigation. Her friends stopped calling when they realized the perfect life she'd shown them was built on lies and stolen money. She moved into a small apartment on the bad side of town. The kind of place she used to drive past and make comments about. I didn't feel happy about it. But I didn't feel sorry either. She had built this prison herself, brick by brick, lie by lie. Now she had to live in it. Nora showed up at my apartment 3 weeks later. I saw her through the peephole, standing in the hallway looking small and defeated. Part of me wanted to ignore her, but I opened the door. Can I come in? She asked. Her voice was quiet, stripped of its usual command. I stepped aside. We sat in my living room, the silence heavy between us. "I'm sorry," she finally said. Tears rolled down her face. Real ones this time. I was scared. I was young and pregnant and terrified. David didn't have anything. Richard did. I thought I was doing the right thing. She looked at me, desperate. "I thought I was protecting you." "You were protecting yourself," I said. Not angry, just factual. "You could have told me the truth at any point. You chose not to." "I know." Her voice broke. "I know I destroyed everything. I just wanted you to know I'm sorry." I looked at her, this woman who'd given birth to me but never really been my mother. "Okay," I said. "I hear you." She looked hopeful. "So we can—" "I'm not done," I said quietly. I pulled out a document from my desk drawer. "I legally changed my name," I said. "I'm Isabella Chan now." Nora's face crumbled. "You took his name?" "He's my father," I said simply. "And unlike you, he never lied to me. Not once." "But I raised you," she whispered. "I was there for every birthday, every school play, every—" "You were there," I agreed. "But you were also lying. Every single day. Every time I asked about my family history, my medical background, where I got my eyes or my hands. You lied." I stood up. "You made choices, and choices have consequences. You chose comfort over truth, money over honesty, control over love." "I'm your mother," she said desperately. "I'm your mother." "You're the woman who gave birth to me," I corrected gently. "But that's all you are now." She left crying. 2 weeks later, I heard she'd lost the apartment. Richard had stopped the alimony payments when more fraud was discovered. She moved in with her sister. The sister she'd left everything to in her will. Over the next few months, I watched from a distance as Nora's world continued to shrink. Friends she'd had for decades stopped answering her calls. The women she'd had lunch with every Tuesday found reasons to be busy. Invitations to parties and events dried up completely. Our small town has a long memory. Everyone knew what she'd done. The lies, the manipulation, the fraud. People whispered when she walked past. Some stores refused her business, claiming she'd stolen from their owners too. In a bigger city, she might have disappeared and started over. But here, everyone knew everything. Her sister eventually asked her to leave. Nora had stolen prescription medication and pawned some jewelry. Always taking, even when she had nothing left to take. She moved into a weekly rental motel. The kind with hourly rates and flickering neon signs. I drove past it once. Didn't stop. Didn't slow down. Just noted the location and kept driving. That chapter of my life was closed. 6 months after everything fell apart, I got a letter. No return address, but I knew her handwriting. I almost threw it away without opening it. But curiosity won. Inside were 3 pages, front and back. Nora's careful script filling every line. It started with, "Dear Isabella." That alone told me everything I needed to know. Not "sweetheart." Not "my darling girl." Just my name. She wrote about her hard childhood, her absent father, her cold mother. How she'd learned early that life was about survival, about taking what you could get before someone took it from you. She wrote about being pregnant and terrified, about choosing security over love. She almost sounded sorry. Almost. But then the last page shifted. Started talking about how I'd abandoned her, how I'd chosen a stranger over the mother who raised me. How I'd ruined her life for DNA, for biology, for something that didn't even matter. The apology was a mask. Underneath was still the same Nora, blaming everyone but herself. I read it once, then walked to my fireplace, lit a match, watched the pages curl and blacken and turn to ash. 3 pages of manipulation and self-pity. Gone in 90 seconds. Building a relationship with David was strange. We were careful with each other at first, like two people learning a new language. He taught me carpentry on weekends. We didn't talk much at first, just worked with our hands, sanding, measuring, cutting. He showed me how to read wood grain, how to know where a piece wanted to split. Wood has memory, he said once. You have to respect what it's been through. I thought about that a lot. We started having dinner every Tuesday. Sometimes we talked about big things. Lost time, missed birthdays, the childhood we should have had. Other times we just talked about normal stuff. His work projects, my job, shows we liked. Once, he showed me his only photo of Nora. She looked so young, smiling in the sunshine. I loved her, he said quietly. For a long time, I hated her. Now I just feel sad. Sad for all of us. Me too, I said. And I meant it. Richard reached out 8 months after the divorce was finalized. We met at a coffee shop, neutral territory. He looked different, lighter somehow, despite everything. I owe you an apology, he said. A real one. You don't, I started. I do. He leaned forward. I knew the truth and I stayed silent. I told myself I was protecting you, but really I was protecting myself. I was a coward. You raised me, I said. You were my dad in every way that mattered. You loved me. I did. I do. His eyes were wet. But I should have told you. You deserved the truth. We talked for 2 hours. He told me about the years of manipulation he'd endured, how Nora had slowly isolated him from friends and family, how she'd made him doubt his own reality. I'm seeing a therapist now, he said, learning about narcissistic abuse. It has a name. What she did to us. I'm glad you're getting help, I said. We left as friends. Not father and daughter anymore, but not enemies either. Something new. Something honest. 3 years passed. I moved to a different state. Started a new job in architecture. Found an apartment with good light and hardwood floors. David visited twice a year. We talked every Sunday. Richard sent birthday cards and the occasional email. We were building something new, something real. I dated a kind man named Marcus who asked questions and listened to answers, who never lied, even when the truth was hard. One day, Marcus asked about my family. I told him the whole story. He listened without interrupting. That must have been terrible, he said when I finished. It was, I agreed. But I survived it. And I learned something important. What's that? That family isn't just biology. It's choice. It's honesty. It's showing up and telling the truth even when it hurts. He kissed my forehead. You're the strongest person I know. I didn't feel strong. Just lucky. Lucky that I'd found the truth. Lucky that I'd survived. Lucky that I'd chosen myself when no one else would. I saw Nora one last time. Completely by accident. I was visiting Richard in our old town when I stopped for coffee. She was there, sitting alone at a corner table. She looked older, tired. The expensive clothes were gone, replaced by worn jeans and a faded sweatshirt. Our eyes met. She stood up, took a step toward me. I could see her forming words, her mouth opening. 30 years ago, I would have stopped. Would have listened. Would have given her another chance to explain, to justify, to manipulate. But I wasn't that person anymore. You don't get access to me anymore, I said quietly. Clear. Final. Not angry. Just done. She stopped walking. Something in my voice told her this wasn't negotiable. I walked past her, ordered my coffee, and left. Didn't look back. Didn't wonder what she wanted to say. That chapter was over. I was free. Free from her lies, her manipulation, her need to control. Free to build my own life with people who chose honesty over comfort. Free to be Isabella Chen, daughter of David Chen, survivor of Nora Martinez. Free to just be me. And that was enough.